No doubt that prices on Veve fluctuate depending on news, drops, popularity, and more. That also means that when big drops occur, often a lot get left behind that are some of the potential best investments that you could make on Veve as of right now. So today, we're going to be learning about how you can pay more attention to the things people are missing out on when everyone's eyes are elsewhere. And let's get started on that. Welcome in everyone, my name is Andy and I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to come and watch this video on the channel. Just before we get started, if you are wanting to support me in this journey, you can hit the subscribe button or you can join the membership to help push me forward in this space to learn more and help you do the same. Recently we've had 12 days of Veve. That was the thing that finalised the end of the year within Veve and what it was, and we saw that actually quite a few of the collectibles didn't go for that much, maybe not as much as we'd initially expected them. If these drops happened just the way the usual drops go, when we have Tuesday, Thursday, and then the Saturday is the sort of main drop, if all of those were to drop on different weeks, I know for a fact that they would have been higher than they are right now. Deadpool's common sitting at around 72 gems. We also have things like the Coca-Cola sitting at around 140, and there's some other things that are sitting lower than they often would, especially if they dropped individually. Because if we look at things such as Deadpool having 1.5 billion in the box office for its movies, it surpasses many things that have been released and are also doing better. Now yes, this of course could be due to the Christmas theme that Deadpool has, but we've also got to look at Coca-Cola, a company that is worth more than Disney, is not doing the same as what some of the others were. Now again, there's some things behind that when it comes to Coca-Cola not really being a collectible platform itself, whereas Disney has collectibles due to the movies and the TV shows and everything that's been created around it. So I do understand to an extent why some things are different. However, I would like to think that if these were dropped separately and individually with the big news backing behind them, there would be a higher price level with the floor than it would be if all the other things weren't dropped within the 12 days. This also means that things like mass sell-offs happen because of news that goes on. And one of the best examples that I can give as most recently is the Mickey Mouse Steamboat that was released at the end of the 12 days. Now it wasn't the very end of the 12 days, but it did lead to a lot of sell-off on a variety of things. Saw people like Deadpool going down as well as the Coca-Cola snow globes, both being giants in this space if they were released on their own, but because something else was there was a massive sell-off. It's just the exact same as we saw in the Disney era, where we saw that a lot of things in the past were sold off for very cheap to get the opportunity of getting Walt Disney, like Todd McFarlane, like Superman. Todd McFarlane went down to about 1.1k when Walt was just released, and also Superman was around 700. Everything was down at that time because people were selling off in order to get these things. This could be due to FOMO, or this could be a lot of other factors that are actually playing a part in this and can stop you from getting amazing deals if you're a part of that crowd, just listening to some advice that you could get right here in order to take advantage at that time. There's also another factor that people probably don't think about too much, but it is always there, and that is actually social media and quote-unquote influencers. You who's watching, you most likely watch more YouTube channels than just mine, and as well, if you're on Twitter, you're most likely following more people in Omi or Komi or Veve than just me. So there's a lot of other eyes and ears that are talking to you about different things, what's worth something and what's not. There's people who pump up prices of certain collectibles that they have. There's other people who give their own analysis on why things are going certain ways. And there's channels like mine who do the exact same. So everything that you hear can also impact you on what you invest in and why you invest in it. You trust these people to an extent that you can put some of your money in those things if you believe that it actually follows to what your plan holds, if they convince you enough. Now, it's not to say that most of them don't do it out of malicious intent. I know a lot of the content creators, none of them are bad people, they just like to educate, like to create content, but it's not to say as well that there are definitely some that just want to pump up their own prices. And that's up to you to decide which one is which and how you should actually follow the information that other people give. For me personally, I always think this should just be taken as another sort of way to gain knowledge, not to actually make your financial decisions. Your finances, at the end of the day, you've got to make your own decision on that. Don't base it off of someone else's knowledge. Yes, they're going to have more knowledge than you if they're in it every day, but you've got to make sure that you're listening to them, understanding what they're talking about, and then go and do your own research to understand it fully, so that when you make that decision, you're convicted in it. This is why prices can fluctuate and you can be left holding the bag if you're not smart enough about it and you actually buy at the peak without actually reaching that again for quite a while. It was just another aspect I wanted to include in this, and I know it's not maybe the biggest for some of you, but there's definitely some of us who have been left holding the bag due to some information that we've taken as fact from others when we just have to take a step back, do our own research and make the decision based on what works for us. There's some things that I've seen people do in the past, and now I'm trying to do as best as I can, but it's to take advantage when everyone else isn't actually paying attention to it. I've seen this happen for quite a few whales who have a lot more money, and understand there's a lot of us here who probably don't have the money to invest in 50 of certain things, but you can do it over a longer period of time if it continues to be sort of slept on when we're in that instance. For example, we could take something like the Marvel's Comic 1 when that was released, sitting at 3 or 4 gems. Some people bought up to 300 of those, and now they're sitting at $200. So that price change and buying something at that low of a price is just something so significant. And you could have still done the same when it came to the Amazing Spider-Man 1, Fantastic Four 1, Ultimate Fallout. They all sat at quite low and are now rising significantly from what they were, especially buying them at 7 gems. And it's not to say it doesn't happen with some other collectibles as well. I've seen this happen with stuff like the Captain America FA. I've seen this happen with Catwoman, with Batman Black and White Series 5. There's a lot that this happens for, and it's just because people are not paying attention to these things for the majority of the time. They're not in the news, they're not the new thing on the block, so people aren't really paying attention to them unless you're smarter. Let's talk about that for a second with what I just mentioned, where about Catwoman in Batman Series 5 with the Common. Now, both of those sat under retail for quite a while. Now, Catwoman was actually one who didn't sell out for a while, same as Batman Black and White. Both of those sat in the store for a long time at base price and actually sat under that on the secondary market. But now Catwoman is up to about 100 gems and Batman is now at 109 gems. So there's definitely a significant increase from where they were prices at. I think that's round about double of what they were at retail, and now they're rising to that. Now understand that double might not be something that you're looking for higher and higher, and I get that, but at the start you have to look for these deals, you have to look for something. To me, double's amazing, but I know and understand that sometimes getting a secret rare comic is a lot more than double. But if we're working our way up here, we have to understand where our attention lies and why it's lying there, and if our attention within the FOMO and within the news right now is actually going to benefit us more than if we were to pay attention to what not many people are looking at. Also, bring it back to what has been happening. We can see that because of the Mickey drop, everything else sort of became insignificant because Disney's so big. The collectibles, it's Mickey Mouse, it's the first ever appearance. We'll actually get told it's not actually Mickey Mouse's first ever appearance, he made one before. And also to add on to that, it's not actually the whistling that he's doing in the ultra rare, but it's just a side note that I wanted to give to you when it came to the video that I made on that. But this does mean that there was a lot of sell-offs when it came to it. A lot of people sold off Deadpool when it came to it, who sat at around 110 gems at the time, is now down to 70. And CocaCola, which was at its high, probably about 200 for the common, and is now all the way down to about 140. I'm not sure if it's exactly that right now, but it was when I checked. Now, this does go to show that people are focused on certain things. How many of those content creators that you watch made videos on Mickey Mouse's Steamboat? And the same content creators, how many made the exact same amount of videos on that as they did for the Deadpool and the Coca-Cola? Now, for me personally, I made a video on all 3 of them, but then I made more on the Mickey Mouse. A lot of the content creators that I've saw, they've done the same. They've made videos on Deadpool and they made videos on the Coca-Cola drop, but they made way more on the Mickey Mouse, because what you're accustomed to and what you're accustomed to seeing is what you pay attention to. So what everyone else isn't paying attention to there is when you can get your deals. Things like Steve Rogers' Captain America went down to like 40 gems and you could have got them at that price. There's other things that went down, and I believe things like Todd McFarlane Batman has took a significant jump over the last few days, and even things like the Secret Rare Spider-Man is now up to 34,000, even last night after me looking at them, being about 25k. So it shows you how quickly things can jump when people start to slowly pay attention to what really matters to them rather than what's happening in the news right now. We've not actually got any big news as of recently, and that's actually quite a scary time when it comes to the marketplace, because that means people have time to analyze what they're collecting and why. So when they do that, they then start to figure out what is going to be the ones I'm willing to hold for a long time and what should I sell off in order to get those. So they start to sell off the things that don't matter as much to them in order to get the grails. And the best time to have done that would have been when the Mickey Mouse got announced during the 12 days, because not everyone is paying attention to them at that time. Everyone's paying attention to what's going to happen next and FOMOing into that. And I was the exact same and have been the exact same for a lot of other things. But now you've got to start realizing what could be maybe a more long-term play that can help you really increase your portfolio for the right reasons. For me personally, one of those ones that stand out to me are the Coca-Cola and the Deadpool drops. To be completely transparent, I have multiple of each. I'm really trying hard here not to make sure I'm being one of those people that's like, yeah, you should go and buy them. And that's why I'm giving you the examples of Catwoman and the Batman Black and White series, because as supply lowers over the next few months, they're bound to increase because they're still very popular and very sought after things in this space. People do want them because it is a significant character in Deadpool, and it is a significant drop, being Coca-Cola's first ever drop on Veve. Now, it's not to say it's the first ever NFT drop, but there was only a 1-for-1 for its FA. This is the first time that a community can hold the Coca-Cola drops. So I see both of those actually being something that is quite slept on, just like Catwoman and just like Batman Black and White Series 5 was back in the day. There were things that people didn't really pay attention to because there were other shining stuff in the store at that time. But now that people have had time to think and people have had time to plan, they're buying up the things that the news is happening with, and now they're starting to buy the grails, paying even less attention to the things that are going to matter in months from now, but just are not really bothered by them at the moment. Understanding the market as a whole can be challenging because it doesn't work exactly the way people think it is going to. And although there's trends and you can analyze it in certain instances, there's some things that just rise because people buy more of them. It's not really anything complicated, it's just understanding it a little bit more. And if we are taking it from the trends that have happened, even stuff like the DeLorean Common sat under retail for months on end before rising quite significantly for what it is. This is because people started to realise that maybe this could hold utility. It used to be able to drive, so maybe they're going to add that back in the future. And even though it had so many additions in the beginning, people are still after it. And I feel the same thing will happen over the coming months, especially when we get into things like Series 4, 5, 6, because these Series 1, 2 and 3 become more sought after as supply lowers and demand increases for the things that truly matter. The FAs, FEs and things that people actually want in their vault. Again, this is thinking more in the long-term play. It's not something that you're going to be making instant profit with like you would a Secret Rare comic if you got it in the drop. But if you're someone who does play the long game and maybe doesn't have the gems to pay for something like a Todd McFarlane Batman or a Secret Rare Spider-Man, like most of us don't, then these could be your best plays in order to get yourself at a better position. Buying 5 Captain America Steve Rogers now and holding them for 4 months before selling them off could then give you the opportunity to buy a Disney Golden Moments that you've always wanted and will now continuously hold for 6 or 7 years before planning to sell. It allows you to just increase your vault when you've not actually got that much to play around with. And I know many of us don't have that cash to just freely put 25 grand into something like a Secret Rare Spider-Man, where we do have 40 to put into something like a Steve Rogers or 100 to put into a Catwoman. I'm not saying those are the best ones to go for right now, but I'm just saying that's what people don't pay attention to until they do. I think you should look at your collectibles right now and look at the market as a whole and try to understand what people are paying attention to right now, what people are looking at and what people are selling off in order to get those. Are they something that will be sought after, or are they maybe something that you don't really see growing that much? I'd love for you to let me know down in the comments what you think and what your strategy is when everyone's FOMOing into something. I know the video on the screen right now will be something you'll love to watch. Have a fantastic day.